Hi everybody.
Hello.
I want to thank the people who put this on, the organisers. I want to thank them for asking me to come along, and I want to thank all of you who came along here this afternoon to support this issue. And I really do thank you. And I also want to specifically thank the brave people who have got up here, talked about what they're facing. Who can not be inspired by that? I think we all are inspired by that. Now, I've come along here today to tell you that some good news and some bad news. Let's start with the good news. The good news is that the Australian people support us. 66% of Australian people support us and think medicinal cannabis ought to happen right now. 14% of Australian people do not support medicinal cannabis. So supporters outnumber opponents by almost 5 to 1. That's pretty good. So we've won the battle in terms of the debate in the community, but we haven't won the battle in terms of the debate among the political class. The politicians are not convinced, and they will drag their feet, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. They'll drag their feet for as long as they can. They're going to make it difficult for us, and they're going to make it difficult for us because they will see this issue as undermining the prohibition of recreational cannabis, and they're not ready to give that up yet. If recreational cannabis wasn't banned, this issue would be sorted out overnight. It's not that difficult. 20 other countries around the world have sorted out this issue and provide medicinal cannabis. In the United States, almost half the states, 23 out of 50, allow medicinal cannabis. So Australia is lagging a lot of other countries, and these aren't way out countries. These are countries like Canada and Israel, Switzerland. There are a lot of ordinary countries that are doing this. They're not way out countries. So what's the other good news? Well, other good news is that the Victorian Premier, Denis Napthine, is taking this issue to COAG, the Council of Australian Governments, next month. I think that's a pretty good sign. And let's hope it means that there won't be a state-by-state or territory-by-territory approach, but let's hope that'll be a national approach. In fact, I don't want to see this as an issue that the Liberals and Nationals support, or Labor supports, or Green supports, or Palmer United supports. I want the whole lot of them to support it all together. And you know what? Even more than that, I want the whole lot of them to get out of the way. Because politicians don't regulate insulin, politicians don't regulate penicillin, the regulators regulate drugs. And cannabis should be regulated by the medical regulators just like penicillin and insulin and all the other drugs. So I shouldn't be regulating cannabis. You shouldn't be regulating cannabis. The ordinary guys who regulate all the other drugs should regulate cannabis according to the same rules. And if they did that, they would find, when they looked at the evidence, that the evidence is very powerful. Now, sometimes you'll hear people say that the evidence is weak. But one of the other good points that I wanted to bring to you, the other good news, is that the evidence is actually pretty strong. Not perfect, but it's pretty strong. The most stringent test in medicine is called the randomized controlled trial. And that means half the people get the experimental drug, half the people get controlled drugs. And the two groups are compared. And this in medicine is regarded as the most powerful, important test in research. There are over 100 randomized controlled trials of medicinal cannabis around the world, and there's plenty of evidence that it works. My colleagues and I wrote a paper in the Medical Journal of Australia last December, and we referred to a review of the international evidence. There were 82 favourable controlled trials for medicinal cannabis and only 9 trials that were unfavourable. That's pretty strong evidence, and there are plenty of drugs that we use in medicine today that are not supported by evidence that's as strong as that. So we've won the popular debate, the community debate, but we haven't won the political debate. This has still got a long way to go. So that's all the good news. Let me tell you some bad news. The bad news is that although we've won the debate, what we're going to get initially are just the crumbs. They will give us the absolute barest minimum they think they can get away with. And the really bad news is that this fight is going to have to keep going for years and years and years. If you think this is going to be over next week, forget it. If you think this is going to be over in a year's time, forget it. We're going to be fighting this for years and years. We're going to need more rallies. We're going to need more letters to the editor of the newspaper. We're going to need more phone calls to talkback radio. We're going to need more of you going to see your members of parliament, federal and state. And please do all of those things if you can. The more you can do, the better. If you think you're powerless, then they've won. You've got power, you've just got to exercise it. Write those letters, ring talkback radio, go and see your members of parliament. So this battle's going to go on, and we face a number of other obstacles. One of the obstacles is that, as it is today, we don't have an officially acceptable source of supply of medicinal cannabis in the country. Well, we now have a company in Tasmania, Tasman Health Cannabinoids. The chair of the board is Dr. Mal Washer, who's not only a GP, but until a year ago he was a member of federal parliament, member of the Liberal Party. He was representing the seat of Moore in Western Australia. And Mal Washer is the chair of Tasman Health Cannabinoids. So let's hope within a few months we'll have an officially accepted supplier of high quality medicinal cannabis, and maybe there'll be other suppliers as well. The third obstacle that has to be faced is the obstacle of the regulatory system. And in Australia, we have a good system for regulating medicine, not perfect, but a good system by international standards. And no state or territory health department can move on this issue of medicinal cannabis without the approval of the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration. They can't move unless an application is made to them. And an application, to make an application is expensive. It'll cost a couple of $100,000. Take some time to prepare a really good application. So all that's ahead of us. So when I say this isn't going to be fast, I know that I'm telling you the truth, and that's not good news for you. Some of you feel you don't have much time left. So let's keep together, let's fight, let's support Josh, let's support Eleanor, let's support all the other wonderful people you've heard today. Let's get together and have another march maybe in the future, all around the country. Let's get even more people, let's get busy, let's get organised, and let's give the politicians hell until medicinal cannabis is available according to the evidence which supports it being an effective and safe drug. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex.